So mid-year review, we are probably over halfway through the year now because we're into the final 6 months or whatever. How do you think this year has been for movies in general? Movies and TV, obviously. Good, bad, me?
It's been a bit of a mixed bag, hasn't it? It's
Yeah.
been an interestingly mixed bag because the world of cinema, it doesn't know where it is at the moment. It's sort of like teetering on the precipice of not sure. Like, for example, we're into month 7 and we've only just had our first $1 billion movie, which is Inside Out 2. Which, yeah, we've still got some big films still to come. Despicable Me 4 was just out in America on Friday, and it's out over here on Friday coming up. You've got Deadpool, Wolverine, that's still to come. So you've still got a couple of biggish films, but it's going to be very similar to the last couple of years where we're not going to see constant $1 billion movies anymore.
Yeah, you get like
not
2, maybe 3 at the most.
Yeah.
I think last year was 2, was it? I think, or
it
maybe
was, yeah. It was
Barbie and Mario, wasn't it, last year? And then Oppenheimer was so close, but didn't quite get there.
But yeah, it's sort of like it sums up what cinema is like at the moment. You look at the troubles that Cineworld are hitting and closing 25% of their chains across the UK. But then you're looking at the positive side of things where Omniplex, a cinema which was only known in Ireland, are opening up areas inside the UK and grasping onto Empire Cinemas, which have decided to close, and they're opening them. And Omniplex is doing well. View Cinemas has turned around and categorically says we're not closing a single cinema this year, which is lovely to hear. People are starting to go back to the cinemas for the big occasions. So the Inside Out 2s and the Despicable Me 4s and things like that. So it's been a mixed bag. When it comes to films as well, I think films are sort of like being a mixed bag as well. The quality has been all over the place. One, we might get a couple of weeks where we get some absolute duds like Madam Web, for example. And then we might get a couple of weeks where we get some really good, fantastic films. So it's just been a bit of an interestingly mixed bag.
And certainly the first few months of the year, we were feeling the impact from the strikes. So there were just a lot of indie films. I mean, look, we're going to go through 5 of our favorite ones so far, and a lot of mine are smaller films. So, I mean, there's a few blockbusters that I haven't seen yet. So I haven't seen Dune 2 yet. I haven't seen Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes yet. So maybe they'll jump in the list, but they're not there yet because I haven't seen them. But it is a mixed bag.
I haven't seen Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes yet. I've seen Dune 2, but I haven't seen Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes. The other thing as well is how quick films are going on VOD.
That's insane. For example,
A Quiet Place Day 1 is out in a couple of weeks' time on VOD in America.
How stupid are Paramount for that? It's like this film's opened for $53 million in the US. Yay, that's a wonderful bam. Oh, by the way, you can watch it in your house in a couple of weeks. Or 3 weeks.
Because
crazy.
Paramount didn't expect it to open that well. Because, yes, there was some marketing behind the film, but they buried it. They just went, throw it out. So they didn't do very well with it, and they didn't expect it. They probably only predicted it for it to do around about 20 million, 25 million. But it overdone its expectations. And so, we're getting films where they're just getting thrown onto VOD very quickly just because they think that they can retrieve their losses.
But what they're doing, and I don't get how they can't realize that they're doing it. They're killing the cinema. I think they are. I think they know exactly what they're doing, but that's a whole another thing. But there are people who were going to go watch Quiet Place who are like, I'll just wait till the end of the month and watch it at home because they're not going to be distracted by people on their phones.
Exactly.
The only one that doesn't seem to be doing it, and they may, but I haven't noticed one, it seems to be Sony. They don't seem to be putting their stuff on VOD really early. And weirdly enough, they're the only the only studio that don't have their own streaming platform, which also buys into my thing of I think the studios are trying to torpedo for whatever reason. They did it with videos and DVDs back in the day.
Actually, they do have their own streaming platform
somewhere.
No, they have Sony Pictures Core. It's on the PlayStation 5.
Okay.
Yeah, they have that platform on there. They don't release, they don't make films that go directly to it, but a lot of the movies are on that. So at the moment, if you resubscribe your PlayStation subscription, you can get to what's called credits, where you can actually use it to watch a film off the Sony Pictures Core stuff on the PlayStation 5. I don't know if the app is available anywhere else, but for example, when Silent Hill, it was announced that Silent Hill 2 was getting a remake, and they released a free-to-play Silent Hill game a couple of months ago. There was this new Silent Hill series which launched exclusively on that, so it's their version of Crackle. But technically, Sony does have their own streaming platform.
Just
but as you said,
not many people have heard of it. It's not widely publicized. I didn't even know about it. I have a PlayStation.
Yeah, as you said, they just don't do what other companies are doing, where they release the film in cinemas and then a month later they release it straight on VOD. Just because I think Sony is having a hell of a lot of trouble with their films at the moment, because most of their movies, their quality has been pretty dire.
Yeah.
So,
but it is crazy the speed in which they are going onto VOD. If studios want to keep cinemas, they need to just stop that. Because that's what's stopping me from going to cinema quite a lot. I'm like, oh, it's coming out soon. I'll just watch it at home. Yeah. Furiosa being a perfect example. I paid probably more than a single cinema ticket, and I watched it in the house, and it ended up being less than going to the cinema for the pair of us, if you take into account transport and food and all that sort of stuff.
What I would like to see, because it's something that's not being reported on as of late, or if it is, it's being buried, is what is piracy numbers like lately?
I bet they're huge. I bet they're massive. Anything digital nowadays, then it's going to get pirated, isn't it?
Because when I used to do the Monday Movie Show, at the end of the year, there used to always be a chart of the film that was the most pirated. You used to always hear about which film was the most pirated film of that year. We've stopped hearing that over the last couple of years, so it'll be just interesting to see what piracy is actually like. If it has it really gone up so much so? But if it has, why we're not hearing about it? Because it's not something that you can easily bury. You could easily find a story on Variety or somewhere like that that'll easily report on the piracy numbers for Quiet Place Day 1. It took 53 million in its opening weekend, but 1 million people pirated the film. So we don't see that these days. So it'd just be interesting to see what piracy numbers are actually like.
I mean, the piracy thing's a tricky one anyway, because there's always people that will download a film illegally and watch it. But if they weren't able to do that, would they go to cinema and watch it? They'll usually turn around and go, no, I wouldn't, which is, odd. But yeah, I would suspect piracy is huge on these VOD things. People's faster internet, quality, all sorts. But
yeah,
crazy. So yeah, the film world's in a sort of weird position. It'll get through it in some way or other. People are like, oh, all cinemas are going to close. No, they're not. They've been around. They survived VHS, they survived TV, they survived DVD, Blu-ray, 4K, all that sort of stuff. They'll just come out in a slightly different form. I think you'll see a lot of the independent cinemas close, unfortunately.
More largely though, is the surprise they managed to survive during wars.
Yeah.
And so if something can survive during a war, then it should easily be able to survive during the digital age.
Yeah. So what have we got then? What have we got for your choices of films that have been, because you do your top list of the year.
Yeah.
How do you construct your list? Do you normally do it at the end of the year and then go through all the films you've seen and put them in? Or do you do it like me, where you'll just add things in and then kick something out when something better comes along? That's generally how I do mine.
I don't do that. I do it the former. So I just, at the closer to the end of the year, that's when I'll sit down, because I score my films, which makes things a hell of a lot more easier for me. So my criteria is when I sit down and write down the worst films or the best films, I'll look at all films that I've given a 4 or above. They go on the best side. And I've looked at all films that go have a 2 or below. They go on the worst side. So the 3 films, they get completely ignored, pushed out to one side. And so that's the way I do it. And then I look at all the films that have been given a 4 or above. If it's a 5, it's pretty much guaranteed to be in my top 10, which is very rare, because the first film I've given a 5 came out this year. And if a film's been given a 1, it's guaranteed to be in my bottom 10 or my bottom 5. And then when I look at the films that are left, so the 4s and the 2s, or the 1.5s or whatever, I look at those ones, and then because the way my brain works, it's sort of like once I see the film title, my IMDb brain kicks into place and goes, it sort of like replays the film back in my head and go, oh yeah, that's that film with that scene and that scene and that scene. So that'll tell me if I go, actually, no, I really hated that film. That goes in the list itself. So that's the way my brain works.
Okay. So you've managed to put a list together early. Have you gone for 5?
Yes.
That you've really liked? Have you got any of like the worst films you've seen this year? Because there's only 2 that I've seen that were awful. For me, it was Jason Statham's The Beekeeper, which I don't know how a lot of people have really enjoyed that. I like Statham, so it's not like I'm not a fan of that. But The Beekeeper, I just hated on every level. And Napoleon, which was a huge letdown, because normally I will always watch something that Ridley Scott does, but Napoleon was visually nice, but other than that, I don't want to see a longer cut of that one.
Yeah, well, because again, the way I work at this, I've got a lot of 2s this year. A lot of films that I've given a 2. There's films where I've given it a 1, a 1.5. So there is that. But when I sat down, I just want to look at my favorite films. And so just throwing a couple of films out there. There's that Murderitatville, which I'm still pondering whether to put it in my worst list of the year or what, just because of the kind of thing that it is, that the fact that it's not a film. And so that's if it is, that'll be my worst film of the year currently, because it's an absolutely atrocious movie. But it's so hard to be able to find it. So I don't know about that. But then there's a film called Light, which I know nobody has heard of, and I think I'm the only one on this planet that actually heard that film and seen that film. But movies like Tarot, which was a generic horror film, which was Pan's Atlas, which is the Jennifer Lopez film, and the only saving grace about that film is Jennifer Lopez. The Watched, which is M. Night Shyamalan's daughter's film, or The Watchers, which was intriguing, but it just fell flat on its arse because it just had nothing interesting to it. That Under Paris, the one on Netflix with the sharks,
the shark,
the scene.
Everybody's raving about that one. No? Oh,
direct. Because the worst thing is, it's directed by Christoph Gans, which I don't know if that director is ringing a bell with you.
No.
Frontiers.
Oh wow! Okay.
He directed Frontiers.
Yeah.
So he is the director of Under Paris, and I don't mind a dumb shark film, but no, that's not very good. Strangers Chapter 1, such a bad film.
Yeah, I've seen that. I was like, I've kind of seen this in the other movies, but done better.
Yeah. So there are a lot of films like that, but I thought just for once, on a rare occasion, I'll actually concentrate on the good ones.
Yeah. So what have you got then? What's your 5 so far? And this could change by the end of the year, of course, depending on what comes out. But
and they're in no specific order, so I've not listed them like the best, like 1 to 5. So when I go through them, that doesn't mean that that's the position that film is going to be in at the end of the year. So I thought I would do it that way. So they're in absolutely 0 specific order. So first one, Society of the Snow.
Yeah. This is the one that's a bit like Alive, isn't it?
It is. It is Alive, but it's the actual true story of what actually happened with those athletes that crashed the plane and had to survive in the snow itself. So it is the actual true story, because the director, who I always laud this director, J.A. Bayona, I adore Juan Antonio Bayona. I still forgive him for Jurassic Park: Fallen Kingdom. It wasn't his fault.
No.
But when you've got a director who directed The Orphanage and The Monster Calls and The Impossible, then he's back to the area where he knows what he's doing with Society of the Snow. And it's such a gut punch of a film. If people haven't seen it, I highly, highly recommend the film, because it is that true telling. Because what he did is he interviewed some of the people who were actually involved in the crash as well, who were some of the survivors. So he interviewed that. He took elements from the book that was actually released not far after it. So Alive was dramatic telling of it. This is sort of like a documentary dramatic telling of it, of what happened in it. And it's such a powerful, impactful film. It's easy to find because it's on Netflix. It was a Netflix film, and it just creeped in there for me because it was only released in January. So I'm so glad. Yeah, because annoyingly, there isn't a Studio Ghibli film on my list because the Studio Ghibli film actually came out December of last year.
Oh,
So and I've still not seen it because when we were having the conversation, when we were seeing films are going from cinema releases to VOD very quickly, it hasn't still. It's only just coming out on digital release.
right.
It's out at the end of this month. So it hasn't officially had its digital release yet, neither. So I've still not seen it, so I can't comment on it yet.
Well, at least you got something to look forward to at the end of the month. Quiet Place Day One and the Studio Ghibli film. So
Quiet Place Day 1 was already released, but Society of the Snow is my first pick.
cool. Okay. Do you want to take turns, do you think?
Yeah, I think that's probably a better idea.
Again, I haven't really got them in specific order other than my favorite one. So my number 5 is a film called 5 Pounds of Pressure, which came out. It's one of these set in an American neighborhood type thing. It stars Luke Evans. Luke Evans gets out of prison. He's been in there because he killed somebody a few years before, and it's him trying to get his life back on track. And then obviously people aren't happy with the fact that this guy's out walking out of prison. I like those sort of films where they're set in like the Bronx or Brooklyn or just a small neighborhood, and you just, I just like to. I'm gravitating towards these sort of indie films. Certainly this year, I think, and I have done in previous years. But 5 Pounds of Pressure is my first one.
I've never seen it. Haven't even heard of it.
There you go. I'm educating you for once on movies. This is insane.
Yeah.
This feels wrong. Feels wrong.
But I've only seen 68 films this year. It doesn't sound much, but that's 68 new films that I've seen. So none of them are films that I've seen in the past, and none of them are the 68 films that were only released this year. Right. So just to put it into context.
I've seen 144, but that includes rewatches. Like Escape from New York and Escape from LA and 3 Roadhouses this year. 1 old, 2 new. So,
Yeah. So my next choice is, there'll be no surprise. You know this film itself. If I was doing it 1 to 5, this would be number 1. It's probably going to be my number 1 film of the year, depending on how Longlegs is, which I cannot bloody wait for Longlegs. The marketing campaign and everything behind that film has been so brilliant that even the reviews are coming out and saying it's just an outstanding film. So I can't wait for that. And obviously the trailer that was dropped for Robert Eggers' Nosferatu. Yeah, I cannot wait for that. It's out on Christmas Day, so Boxing Day over here, but I cannot wait for that. But now my film of the year is All of Us Strangers. You know how much I grandized that film when I was on the show, but honestly, that film did not put a foot wrong for me. It was such an absolute powerhouse of a movie that it's that kind of thing where it's a film that speaks to everybody, no matter your gender, no matter your sexuality, anything like that. It's that kind of film where it's one of those movies where it makes you think, I wish I actually told this person this. Yeah. So you've got things that you've never been able to tell your parents, your loved ones, or whatever, and now you don't have the opportunity to. I wish I did. And so it's one of those movies. And the performances, no wonder Andrew Scott and Paul Mescal got all the praise that they actually did, because they 100% deserved it. Like so much so that I wasn't even interested in seeing it at all. But I'm eager to see Gladiator 2. Just because of Paul Mescal. Yeah. He hasn't put a foot wrong acting wise. He's just a phenomenal actor. And Andrew Scott is the same. If I see Andrew Scott's name now on a film, I'm going to be going, I want to watch it. He's a brilliant actor anyway, Andrew Scott, but it just cemented how much of a brilliant actor he is. And it's just an absolute gut punch of a film. And I implore anybody to go and see All of Us Strangers. And if you are not affected by it, you're dead inside.
How many times have you watched it?
Only once, because of how busy life can be. So it only gives me a chance to actually watch it once. But it'll probably have the same kind of impact if I watch 5 times or 10 times. It's probably going to be the similar kind of impact that Stand By Me has on us, or The Goonies has on me, or Monster Calls has on me, or even Sister Act, which is a completely different take of the kind of film, because that always makes me smile every single time I've seen it. Or even one of the classic old school Carry On films that always used to make me giggle and smile. So anything that establishes any kind of reaction, whatever emotion it actually is, if a film enables you to do that, no matter how many times you see it, then it's special. And I think All of Us Strangers will do that.
I'm guessing All of Us Strangers, if we were doing your top 100 list, that would be in there now.
Yes.
That means you'd have to kick some, or you'd have to look at your list and kick something out. Then that's not the fun part doing these lists, is it?
No, but it's a bit more easier when you can look at the bottom part of the list itself and the bottom 50, because those are easier to kick out than it is anything in the top 50, because it'll be very hard to get rid of something like that. But All of Us Strangers will be easily in the top, I would say 5% of my list, easy.
Wow.
It probably would very creep, and if not, push something out of my top 10.
Really? Wow.
Films of all time. It is honestly is that special. It's that kind of film where it changes your viewpoint on how you think about films.
Yeah.
And it's very, very rare that a film comes along that does that. Like A Nightmare on Elm Street changed the way I thought about horror films. Stand By Me changed the way I thought about just myself in general. So when a film establishes that, changes the way you think about how you see films or just your life, then it's got something special. And for me, All of Us Strangers is definitely that film.
And that's why we all watch movies, isn't it? In the amount that we do, to try and discover these gems that will go brilliant, life changed. You know, and then
movies are a machine for emotions. That's it. Movies are a machine for emotions. Whether you want to laugh, cry, whether you want to be scared, whether you want to be jumping around like a little child, see an explosive set piece that you might not have seen before. It's a machine for emotions. It will get something out of somebody, whether you hate it or absolutely love it. So it is a perfect machine for emotions. It's a cuddle blanket when you need pick-me-up. If you want to cry, there is a film out there that will make you cry. If you want to feel that comfort hug that you got from your parents when you were a child, films are there which will actually do that to you. There will be guaranteed to be something there which will remind you of the best parts of your life, and something that will easily grab you through the worst parts of your life. So they are a perfect machine for emotions.
There is, and I'm sure we won't go through the list, but I'm sure there's a list of films where you think, right, I've got a job interview tomorrow, for example. Right, I need something to pick me up and put me in that mindset. Right, I'm going to watch Jerry Maguire or something. That's one of my choices. Those sort of, install this film in my brain, and then I can go out and think in a certain way or whatever. So
exactly.
Yeah. Well, my next one is Knox Goes Away, directed and starring Michael Keaton. Michael Keaton is not a very nice guy. He plays Knox in this, and he goes to a medical appointment and discovers he has got early stage dementia, but it's rapid stage dementia. So it's going to hit him within, a matter of weeks. He obviously, in the nature of the work that he does, he can't tell anybody that he's suffering from that because, you know how the criminal world works. And so he starts to prepare everybody around him, including his family, for when he's not going to be there anymore because of the dementia. It was a film I watched twice in a day. I watched it because I like Michael Keaton. And then when Annette came home, I'm like, we need to watch this film because it was amazing. And I enjoyed it the second time as much as I enjoyed it the first time. Keaton is a bit like you said with Paul Mescal and Andrew Scott, where it's like, Keaton's in it, I'll watch it. I might not like every single film that he's in, but his performances are just, I really do like that guy. He makes interesting choices. But Knox Goes Away, definitely worth watching. It's a film that a lot of people haven't heard of and haven't seen.
Same.
Which is a crime. So I would definitely check that one out. It's really good.
I'll write it down because, again, it might actually fall on my October list.
Yes.
Where I watch films that I missed over the course of the year. So I've written that one down.
Cool.
Next up, I've got actually a good mixture of films because going into the world of animation, the best animated film that I've seen this year is Robot Dreams.
Okay.
Is that French silent film that was nominated at the Oscars, and I thought the animated feature at this year's Oscars was it's a hard one to pick. But Robot Dreams is just it's just one of those little beautiful animated, 2D animated French silent films just about a dog, an anthropomorphized dog, because the world itself is actually filled with animals as humans, who is alone, who lives on his own, watches TV every single night time, looks across the street, sees a couple very happy, just wants a friendship or wants that relationship. He sees an advert one day on TV for a robot companion, a robot friend, so he orders it, has a hell of a lot of fun with this robot friend, and then one day at the beach, the battery in the robot dies, and unfortunately he's unable to actually get the robot home. And so throughout the course of the year, when the beaches close down for the winter, autumn and winter, it's his challenge to trying not only live his life, but also try to rescue this robot. And it's as simple as that.
That sounds pretty heartbreaking, to be honest. If it's done right, and it sounds like it was, that sounds like it could be one of them crying movies.
It's definitely done right, but it's a roller coaster of emotions kind of film. There's joy, there's sadness, there's humor, there's just brilliance, and it's silent. There is no dialogue in the film. You might get a bit of dialogue from the TV through the adverts and stuff like that, but the characters do not speak. They just make sounds. The only tiny negative against the film is it's a tad too long. Like it could have been a little bit shorter. If that's my only qualm with the film. It's beautifully animated because I still think 2D animation is hard to top because it stands the test of time. Like you guarantee you could stick on Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs today and kids would actually absolutely adore it because of how the animation is. Compared to if you stuck on Toy Story today, the animation on that is so badly dated that it has an effect on the film. But when animated features are getting released in 2D, so like Robot Dreams, or like the film I watched this morning, The Imaginary, which is on Netflix, which is the new Studio Panok film from one of the animators who worked on Spirited Away, ex-Studio Ghibli company, 2D animation with some 3 CG in it, where some of the animation just looks like it's painted, which is very similar to what Ghibli did in the 80s and 90s. That's with The Imaginary. Robot Dreams has got that beautiful sort of like crisp 2D animation to it. It's very simple, so they don't go completely over the top with it, but it will stand the test of time. And it is my favorite animated film of the year so far.
Okay. We just finished last night a complete watch through of all the Pixar movies, other than Inside Out 2, which is at cinemas. But so we watched Elemental. We watched them right through in order. Which took us about 6 months, to be fair, because it was like one a week. And Annette's now decided she wants to start doing a Disney classics watch through. And so later on today, she will in fact be sitting down watching Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. I've said she's on her own with that because watching like 120 Disney, that's too much of a commitment for me. I'm like, I'll drop in and I'll drop out, but I'm bailing out of that one. But Snow White, I think, does and will still hold up. Like I said, the computer animation stuff can look dated. The story's still there. We've enjoyed watching them all, but yeah, 2D animation's a lot better. My next one is it's a British one as well. It's a British comedy. I went into it not knowing how funny it would be, if in fact it would be funny, but I really enjoyed Some Otherhood, which is the follow up to Anotherhood. Adam Deacon. I just laugh my arse off, and sometimes you need that with a film. It's stupid, it's not believable, but it was just wisecracking London gangsters trying to be, top boys and all this sort of stuff. I just needed a laugh, and I put a film on, and it just made me laugh. So currently, that's in my top 5. You don't even need to have seen Anotherhood. I haven't seen that for years, probably 15 years or so since I watched that one. So I just went in, watched it, I understood everything, and it just made me chuckle. So I would check that out if you like silly British comedies.
Nope, definitely not, because
nope, not yours.
We will probably have an argument at the end of the year where you will have it on your list for the best films, and it'll probably be on my worst list.
We're not a fan?
I'm just comedies that just don't hit me at all. But yeah, when I watched the trailer looked horrible.
I didn't think the trailer looked very good. But there's a whole the film starts off, and I'd seen the trailer. I'm like, I'll probably watch it at some point, but how good's it going to be, to be honest? And the film starts off with this, what looks like a gun deal going off in the back of a van. The people are there to buy a weapon. Turns out Adam Deacon and his partner didn't quite understand this deal, and they're trying to sell a mobile phone. So it's just the whole people not understanding what the hell's going on that just tickled me, and it just made me laugh all the way through the movie. So I don't know if it'll be on my best by the end of the year. Hopefully it's not on your worst. We'll see.
If I see it.
If you see it.
Then onto the realm of horror, because I'm guessing you were expecting at least one horror film on my list. And again, I'm still waiting for Longlegs. Obviously, I'm still waiting for Nosferatu.
Maxine.
My stupid cinema decided not to show Maxine, which is really frustratingly annoying. The idiot. So I sent them a message saying, if you decide not to show Longlegs, then we are going to have horrible words.
Don't send them things like that. They may come back at you. I think there's laws against that.
At least I said horrible words, and I didn't say I was going to petrol bomb the whole thing.
You're not going to explode your building, no.
Yeah, so I can't wait to see Maxine, despite a few mixed reviews here and there. But Ty West, I love Ty West's films anywhere, and I have to see it because I love the first two films, and that's the series X and Pearl. I think they're brilliant films, so I can't wait to see that. But the horror film on my list was a horror film that got a lot of talk. It's not In a Violent Nature, which I've seen In a Violent Nature, which is an old school slasher film where I know a lot of people saying the unique thing about In a Violent Nature is it tells the story from the perspective of the serial killer, of the killer.
Like Maniac.
Well, not like Maniac, because Maniac is about a serial killer. This is about something like a Jason Voorhees. So from that killer, but it doesn't actually fully tell the film from that point of view, because Maniac drops it in two scenes where you don't see it from that point of view. In a Violent Nature, there is multiple scenes where you actually do see it from other people's point of views. So, but most of the kills, if not all of the kills, actually all of the kills are from the point of view of the killer itself.
Okay.
So that scene where a lot of people are seeing on the top of a cliff, some of the kills are very unique. Some of them are pretty generic, but that one at the top of the cliff is chef's kiss when it comes to a kill. It's geniusly nasty. So I'll just leave it at that. But my favorite horror film of the year is Late Night with the Devil.
Yeah.
It's on Shudder. I loved it. I thought it was just, it reminded me of watching, I can't think of the blooming name of it, that Ghostwatch. It reminded me of watching Ghostwatch.
Yeah.
Because it's very similar to that, because we can see here in the UK that we did it first with Ghostwatch, because we had never seen anything like that before when Ghostwatch was actually out in the very early 90s. And Late Night with the Devil reminded me of that. It's a possession film told from the viewpoint of a 70s TV program about a failing talk show host who is trying one last attempt to be able to revive his career. And he does it by doing a special show on Halloween, where he's hoping that bringing somebody onto the show who is possessed to try and boost his ratings. And it has extremely dire consequences. I know a lot of people didn't like the ending. I thought the ending was actually really well constructed, and it sort of like, it has a twist that you really don't expect. And I think people might have switched off at the point when the twist happens, because the twist explains what's happened in the previous 10 minutes.
Yeah.
And so, I thought I was genius, and I thought of David Ashmalian. He's just brilliant in the film. He holds his own just perfectly. He's been wanting that film to happen anyway for quite a few years.
Yeah.
But I loved it. I thought it was just, it tickled that horror bone that needed to be tickled at the time when I watched it. And to me, so far, it is my favorite horror film of the year.
Is it atmospherically scary?
Yeah.
Okay.
I wouldn't say it's scary because I don't scare. No. But I can see where other people did. But yeah, even though there's been films like Abigail, which I really loved, if you're after a popcorn, gruesome, over-the-top, bloody, gory horror film, then definitely watch Abigail. Again, some people were sniffy over, but screw them. Just enjoy yourself with Abigail from the people who did the last two Scream films. And so, yeah, I've seen that, and I've seen that I Saw the TV Glow, which is just getting a an official UK release, which is a very weirdly strange film. And I saw that in A Violent Nature and things like that. But yeah, my favorite horror film of the year so far is Late Night with the Devil.
I think horror-wise, Something in the Water I enjoyed because I like shark movies. I haven't seen Under Paris, so I'm not high hopes for that one. And then I finally got around to watching The First Omen, which was fine. I liked it. It tied in with the Richard Donner Omen nicely enough. Some people got sniffy over like a line of dialogue that changes everything about. It's a throwaway line. It's like, don't worry about it. But overall, I really enjoyed it. I haven't seen Immaculate, which was the other one that you mentioned. It was similar.
Yeah, it is.
But The First Omen, I enjoyed it. It's good.
First Omen and Immaculate are a good double bill if you're after a double bill of devil possession films. I haven't seen The Exorcism, which is
no.
No. I'll still watch it because it's horror. So if there's a horror film there, I'm just going because the first category I look at when I do go onto a streaming platform that I've got access to is horror. I look at that and go, is there any horror on that? Like, for example, Tubi, with them just launching Tubi in the UK. They have a huge catalogue of horror films, of a load of films that I've never even heard of. Yeah. Even though I had access to the American Tubi, again, not against the law because I just used a VPN to access it. That's how I watched Festival of the Dead. It was on there. I didn't illegally stream it. I just used a VPN. And so there is a ton of horror films, and Tubi have a load of their own, which they create. And so I was just looking through Tubi last night, just looking at the list of horror films. And so there's a huge amount on there. There's actually a load of films on there on Tubi, and it's actually a pretty decent platform.
And it's free. It is amazing. We don't need to pay for streaming platforms because there are enough free ones out there that you just never need to pay for.
20,000 plus films are on Tubi, and they launched it because Tubi used to be out in the UK, and then it disappeared, and now they've come back, and so they launched that way with over 20,000 plus films on there. It's got something for everybody. So people download Tubi. We're not sponsored by Tubi. If they want to sponsor us, then sponsor us, but download Tubi.
Yeah, they can give us a free account of. Well, they send us goodies. We'll have a Tubi mug. There's got to be some of those. I'll start following them on Twitter and pest on them for mugs.
Yeah, give us a Tubi t-shirt because I do like that colour motif that they've got, that yellowy, purpley kind of colour. Do quite like that colour motif. So a Tubi t-shirt and a Tubi mug.
And we'll even wear it on podcasts. We'll do that.
Yes.
I'm going to put that down in my homework list. I'll chase up Tubi, try and get us a hoodie each or a t-shirt each, and we'll wear it on a whole month of podcasts.
Yeah. Definitely.
My next one is You Can't Run Forever, the one with J.K. Simmons. I love J.K. Simmons. I remember seeing him in the TV show Oz back in the 90s and early 2000s, where he played Vern Schillinger, psychopathic character in that show. And You Can't Run Forever is a return to that sort of role for J.K. Simmons. It does explain why he's not having a good day, but he just decides to just hunt these people and then chase this girl through the woods. And he's like, I'm just going to kill you. It's very, very basic, but my God, it works. But mainly for the performance of J.K. Simmons. And apparently it was all his family that were involved in it. So I think it's like a brother-in-law in there. His wife, I think, directed it. His kids are in there. And it's such a good movie. It's just J.K. Simmons in full crazy mode, chasing a kid through the woods, intent on killing her. It's amazing. Loved it.
I haven't seen it, but again, I've written that down because I do like J.K. Simmons in crazy mode because I loved Oz. Oz was always when it used to be on a Thursday night on Channel 4, because it used to be Oz and then Bits used to be on after it, and I had school the next day, so I used to tape it. Used to tape Oz and then used to tape Bits, and so I knew when I finished school on a Friday, after watching Nightmare and what have you, that got my video cassette, got Oz, got Bits. Perfect. Leave me alone for 2 hours. This is my stuff.
If we ever do a list of our favorite TV shows ever, Oz is easily in like the top 3 or whatever for me. I love that show.
Yeah, it belongs in at least my top 10, along with things like X-Files and Out Limits and what have you, and Erie Indiana. I loved Erie Indiana and Games Master and all. You know, we could rant on about 80s and 90s TV programs, but
that's another show.
I've written that down just because I do like crazy J.K. Simmons. I just like J.K. Simmons in general because even voiceover work that he does. For example, I've just bought myself a Steam Deck. So you know those the handheld PC thingies. I've just bought that one of those, and one of the things on it very similar to the PlayStation 5 with Astro Bot, where it sort of like gives you a feeling of what it's like to have the PlayStation 5 controller and whatever. The Steam Deck has got a similar kind of thing on that, where you just play a robot working out with your science from the Portal and Half-Life games, and J.K. Simmons does the voice of the boss, and he's just so like straightforward with these jokes, like you're sort of like giggling with these sort of like the way he just relays them.
Yeah.
And he's got a genius way of doing that he can do that, but then, as you said, he can be an absolute menace.
Yep, it's great. But yeah, do check that one out.
Final one on my list is actually a pretty new one. It's actually a very new film, A Quiet Place Day One.
Okay.
So I've seen A Quiet Place Day One. I loved A Quiet Place. I really liked A Quiet Place Part Two. I thought the first one was slightly better. I think the second one is really good. But this one here is, ignore the trailer. The way the trailer plays out, it plays it out like it's an out-and-out action film with the aliens and what have you. The aliens do play a part of the film, but if you just treat it like a two-handed film, mainly focused on Lupita Nyong'o's character, who her whole plight through the entirety of the film is to find pizza. I'm not going to say why, because I know in a few people's reviews they've explained why. I think it's a plot point that you need to discover for yourself, which you do in the first 5-10 minutes of the film, but it's not shown in the trailer.
Right.
So I prefer not to explain why. But our whole plight is to just find pizza, and then this alien invasion happens. Yeah, there are parts of the film which is, I think, could have been told slightly better. Like they're able to discover how the aliens work relatively quickly. So with noise, they're able to discover that considering it's day one. But the way they actually use that is sort of like a thing in the film. So very similar to what they did in the first and second one. There are elements in this movie where they're just very simple scenes. Like there's a scene where two main characters are actually in a hotel room. There's a storm that's happening, and they're able to pick the moments during this storm to let out screams and let out that frustration that's built up inside of them. And so it allows them to do stuff like that. There's a cat in the film, which the cat is absolutely genius. The cat is brilliant. There are some really good set pieces in the film. There is some emotional heft in the movie, like a few huge, massive punches. And Lupita Nyong'o is just Lupita Nyong'o. Yeah. She's phenomenal in the movie, absolutely phenomenal. I really, really like The Quiet Place Day One.
Okay, I'm looking forward to it. I like the first one. I like the second one. I am very excited about that.
A lot of people have put this one as their favorite one out of the Quiet Place series. I actually have them all as fours, so they're all fours across the board. And since I would probably say this is the best trilogy I've seen since the Planet of the Apes trilogy, the rebooted Planet of the Apes trilogy.
Okay. Yeah,
it's that high up for me because it and the How to Train Your Dragon trilogy. Yeah. Like if I'm having a trilogy day, I think I'll go Planet of the Apes, How to Train Your Dragon, the Quiet Place trilogy. So I really, really like the Quiet Place Day One.
And this isn't directed by John Krasinski, who did the other two, but he is producer on it, I think, isn't he, or something? He's definitely still connected with it in some way.
Yeah, he is still part of the world itself, but he went to the director. Jeff Nichols was originally going to be directing this film, but Jeff Nichols had to stand down from the movie. But then he was given the idea of the two-pronged character idea, which again, I'm not going to go too much into it. And he loved that idea, so he went, "Go ahead and do it." And I'm glad he did, because it makes it takes what it could have been a film where it felt like it was rehashing stuff from the first and second films. Despite the second film being a prequel and a sequel, this is a straightforward prequel because it is the first day. But it does something different. It does something with some more emotional kick to it. Which watch it. Go and watch it.
Well, this is where we become the king of segues, because John Krasinski didn't direct Quiet Place Day One, but he did direct If, which is my favorite film that I've seen so far this year. I adore that film. I saw the trailers. I thought that looks fun. I'm interested in watching it. But you know when you put a film on and it's just the charm just oozes off the screen and you just sit there with a big fat old smile on your face for the duration of the movie. If did that for me. It's got the best use of a Tina Turner song ever since Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome. Kaylee Fleming, who I didn't recognize. I'm like, she's amazing in this film. What else has she done? I hadn't realized that she also plays Judith in The Walking Dead. So she's playing a 12-year-old in If, but she's like 17, 18. She's just one of them people that looks, younger than she is. I'm sure you're familiar with what If is. If is stands for imaginary friend. Kaylee Fleming plays a character who's lost one of her parents, and her dad is ill and he's going through medical treatment. So she sort of goes upstairs in the building and finds out that Ryan Reynolds is he's living with all these weird imaginary friends that don't have people to belong to, because kids grow up and they forget about their imaginary friends. And there's just this whole just crazy, sweet, lovely feeling to If. It should have made more money than it did at the cinema. It's absolute crime. People bitch and moan about, there's no original films anymore. Kind of is. Go watch them. They just don't watch them. But we watched If. Didn't know too much about it beforehand, but Annette and I both agreed it's one of the most charming films we've seen this year. That at the minute, that is my favorite film that I've seen this year. Whether it is come December, depends what comes out between now and then. But just a really nice, lovely film. So everybody, watch it.
It seems to be the year of imaginary friends, because you had Imaginary, the Blumhouse film. You've got If. You've got The Imaginary, which is the Studio Ponok film. Even Inside Out 2, technically, is all about emotions, but technically imaginary friends in that instance there. So it's the year of imaginary friends in films.
It is. It really is. But yeah, that's my choices of the film so far. I don't know how many of my 5 now will be in the list by the end of the year. There's a couple that I probably think will probably drop out. Some Otherhood may drop out, because I haven't seen Doom Part 2 yet. I haven't seen Immaculate. I haven't seen Inside Out 2. Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes I haven't seen. So there's a few that I've got to catch up on. And then, of course, there's all the indie films that we don't know about yet that will just drop into our eyeballs. So,
for example, the new Hellboy film might be in your list, because that one just came out absolutely nowhere.
Well, I saw somebody on Facebook go, this is coming out. And how often do we look and we go, it's not even a real film. Get a grip. Yeah. So I'm like, right, let me check. Oh, it is a real film. Holy crap. Yeah. There is a new Hellboy film coming out.
Which is interesting. Let's just see it. The trailer makes it's a very, very low budget film. Written by Mike Mignola, who obviously the writer of and creator of Hellboy. Have you seen the trailer for it?
I have not seen the trailer for it, no.
Yeah, watch the trailer. Do not expect the Guillermo del Toro or Neil Marshall kind of levels of special effects Hellboy. This is a very small film, and it's him going up against the Crooked Man, which in the Hellboy world is one of Hellboy's hardest enemies or adversaries that he's fought against, because he's not a demon and he's not a god, which Hellboy is sort of like used to that kind of thing. So the Crooked Man is something else, but it's very, very low budget. But that's out this year, and that came out absolutely from nowhere.
And obviously this year we've got the Crow coming out, which I'm sure the internet will embrace and run around saying how much they loved it, because that's what the internet does to stuff like that. But I'll watch it, and if I like it, I like it. I will still always like the Alex Proyas film. It's not going to damage that one if I don't like a remake, but that's the next film that the internet's probably going to try and destroy into little pieces, because that's what it likes to do, doesn't it?
Exactly.
So, what's the next film on your list that you're going to watch? What are you excited about watching soon?
Long Legs. Not a beat around the bush. Long Legs, which is out this Friday.
What's the premise?
Cannot wait for it.
What is the premise of Long Legs? What's the pitch for that?
Nicolas Cage is a serial killer, and it's up to Micah Monroe to stop him. That's it.
That's all you need, really, isn't it?
Micah Monroe pretty much plays Clarice, and Nicolas Cage is Hannibal Lecter.
Wow. Yeah, that's pretty much all you need to just convince people, isn't it? And hopefully this is just Nick Cage off the leash, going full Nick Cage,
Watch the trailer. You've never seen Nicolas Cage like he's never done anything like this before. This is the scariest Nicolas Cage you will ever see. So
Oh,
watch the
yeah.
recent trailer, because that gives you a feeling of what to expect from Longlegs. But honestly, just there is a bit in the trailer which is just voice, where you just hear Nicolas Cage call Micah Monroe's character the Dark. And it's just the way he says it and the voice that he puts on the character through the entirety of the film. It's so creepy. So I cannot wait for it.
I
It's
shall
a
watch.
it's a directorial debut as well, directed by Osgood Perkins, which I've never heard of Osgood before. But yeah, it's a directorial debut as well. So the reviews that it's been getting are just being straightforward brilliant. Some people have said it is the best horror film in the last decade. It's
Wow,
that good.
that's a high
So
benchmark.
I cannot wait. I really hope it's not being overhyped for me, but I cannot wait. I said as soon as I see the short time for my cinema, if it's not on that list, I'm going to cry. But if
Yeah.
it is, as soon as I finish work on Friday at 3:30, I'm straight to the cinema to see it.
Well, let me know what it's like if you do manage to get to see it.
I will
So,
do in my pity X kind of way.
yes. Any more thoughts on your TikTok review or your little mini podcast reviews? Still on the
No,
drawing board?
working world and all that kind of stuff has derailed most stuff. So
Yeah.
I'll just leave it to X for now.
Yeah. Cool. Well, thanks for the suggestions. I've written them down, and I will check some of them out, because most of them I haven't seen. So
Brilliant.
and I'm glad you enjoyed Download as well, and thanks for being interrogated. I think a lot of people will find that useful. So
It's not a problem at all.
cool. Well, you enjoy the rest of your afternoon, Stu, whatever you're up to, and
You too.
and I will chat to you later on.
Bye bye.
Right. Take care.